Hello ladies and gents, welcome to another beer review. Now, a little while back we did Westvleteren 12, Westvleteren, or how you pronounce it, 12. Well known for being one of the world's most sought after beers, and pretty darn good if you ask me. Give it 9.5, easy one. So a few other beers rack up to it. There's only a few quadruples, or strong Belgian dark ales is another term they use for it, in the world, and one of the other ones is this little fellow here, which actually, if you have left the price on, wasn't exactly too expensive, to be honest. This is a Rochefort 10, Trappist Rochefort 10. Another Trappist beer. I think they also call them Abt beers or Abbot beers, because these were the strongest beers brewed, and they were usually for the abbot of the monastery. So this is their version number 10. I had a bottling date on it somewhere and I've completely forgotten where it is, but it's a certified Trappist beer, this one. And this one pops in at 11.3%, so it's particularly quite strong, to be honest. So let's crack this one open and give it a try. Obviously its comparable friends are St Bernardus do an Abt beer as well. St Bernardus used to actually do the brewing for Westvleteren before Westvleteren took it over again. And Rochefort's one of the other ones that do it too, and I think there's a Struce Brewers, or yeah, the Struce Brewers do a version called I think it's called Westvleteren, because they're based in the city, in the town next door to where Westvleteren is. No, it's not called that. It's called something else, but that's essentially the story behind it. Anyway, so there we go. Poured it out. This one is perhaps a little bit lighter in colour than Westvleteren. It's certainly a little bit brown, to say the least. There's a little bit of light coming through it, if I'm honest, so it's more of a browny colour, this. Barely any head in it at all, but it's got a high ABV, so I wasn't expecting any. But what is there is lacing rather nice, as you might be able to see if I do it on the side of the glass. It does lace quite well, which looks quite cool. Lots of carbonation in it. It is indeed bottle conditioned, as is the style. There's bits of yeast floating around inside of it as well that you won't be able to see. So let's get a nose on this fellow. Oh, there is some big, I'd almost call it like brandy-esque notes to this one. There is some booze on this right through the nose. It's quite harsh, in a good way though. It's nice and warming. Lots of deep dark molasses. It's like super dark candy sugar sort of smells, brown sugar, demerara sugar, all those sort of things, kind of caramelised smells on it. There's a nice bit of plummy, stone fruity smells too. But I'd really stick by it. It smells like a good sweet brandy, like the smell of a brandy that's just had perhaps sugar melted into it or something. You know, if you put some melted sugar in it, it does smell good. It really does smell good. It does smell inviting. It smells every bit of the percentage of ABV it is. It smells like it's full of flavour. So here we go. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Well, that's magnificent as well. There's one thing that you can certainly say about Abbot, Quad, whatever beers you call them, strong dark Belgian beers. They are intense in terms of flavours. I wish I knew how old this little bottle was, because the Westvleteren I had was pretty fresh, and I would hazard to say this one is also pretty fresh. I have had it before, and I think I mentioned in the Westvleteren review. I find Rochefort 10 just a little bit more harsh on the palate. Now, a little bit more attacking. The flavours just burst a little bit more. While the Westvleteren is a little bit, it blends. It's a bit smoother. And that's the best way I can describe it. The flavours in this are impactful, they're powerful, they're punchy. Closest things you can probably draw comparisons with are your very strong Scotch ales, barley wines, those sort of deep, rich, dark, malty flavours, but in a particularly Belgian sense. You get this kind of fruity, stone fruits, sugary, I like to call it like this candied sugar flavour. It's almost, yeah, I guess candied stone fruit, and you get sherry and a bit of brandy and booze on it as well. And it, you know, it is just the strong barley wine of the Belgian style beers, of Belgian beers, or of indeed Trappist beers. And this one in particular has quite an impactful and strong and punchy flavour. Really does dominate your palate. The mouthfeel is lovely and chunky too. There's tons and tons of carbonation. It's bottle conditioned, so you know I could give it a good shake and it would probably burst the cap off it. And there's just nothing bad about this beer, really. They just you couldn't say there's anything bad at all. It's just so full of flavour. So full of flavour. The mouthfeel helps it carry on. There's a nice level of bitterness too that just drags out those flavours for eternity, it seems. It just dominates the palate for so long. Well, if I were to compare this little fellow to its well-known brother, Westward Town 12, like I said, Westward Town is a lot smoother, the flavours blend a lot better, the mouthfeel on that, I remember just being, it was champagne fizz-esque, it was like drinking silk, it was so wonderful. This isn't too far off. I wonder if Westward Town re-ferment with champagne yeast maybe, or something like that, who knows. But this one's just more dominant in a certain sense. So you can compare the two. One's like a very fine aged wine, even though it's perhaps not aged, and this one's a lot more like, I don't know, it's like brandy. It's like drinking a brandy. It's so full of flavour. I can't fault it. It's wonderful. It's really, really good. It's a fantastic example of its style. This is another easy 9.5. You want to ask me which one's better. Really couldn't tell you. I think I enjoy the nuances and the subtlety of Westward Town. That's what makes it so interesting and why it's so popular. It's because you get those flavours in such subtlety and there's so many different notes zinging around. But this isn't. This is more than adequate. This is barely a touch below that. I mean, I'm just picking at straws to say which one's better. I'm trying a blind taste test. I probably couldn't tell the difference between the two. It's just what I remember off the top of my head. From the one time I've had Westward Town and the maybe 3 times I've had this beer. But it's magnificent. Please go out and try if you do find it. It's just wonderful. You know, you cannot go wrong. You just cannot go wrong. You can't go wrong with Trappist beers in general, to be perfectly frank. But there you go. So, please like, favourite, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think if you've had the wonderful little Rochefort 10. I'm going to say I'll be extremely happy for the next few minutes as I sup away on this. And until the next baby review, cheers!